Do you think there's a real barrier for people to think about the cell as a computer? Like, do you think that the general public is ready to accept that as a concept?
10 years ago, if you'd asked me that question, whether people could imagine cells as computers and programmable, I would have said it's a leap. Today, because there's a whole generation of people that have grown up with computers, use them every day, understand processors, understand the rate of change, understand programming languages. Now I find it actually helps me if I describe a cell as a living computer with a digital programming language. They get it immediately, they understand the software tools of how to manipulate it very quickly, and now it's no problem.
You recently wrote an article called Hacking the President's DNA, and it's definitely set in the future, but it's a very near future, and the concept of open sourcing DNA is interesting to me, so can you talk about that?
Yeah, I wrote the article with two co-writers. One of them was a professional writer, because I'm not that good. The other one was a cybersecurity expert. And what we've recognized is that if you look at cells as little computers that are programmable, a lot of the dynamics that we've been seeing in computer warfare, cyber warfare, just hacking, etc., is probably coming to biology. That's the premise. And then the second premise of the story was, if we have all of these researchers that are learning how to specifically kill cells to make a better cancer treatment, that those technologies could be co-opted not to kill a specific cell, but a specific person. So our rationale was, it's hard to go and make a pandemic, but we might actually see people start to hack the president, and that would be a new biosecurity concern.
What do you see as kind of some of the major challenges with genetic engineering and genomic information and kind of this new age of biotechnology in terms of societal issues, ethical issues, moral issues, those kinds of things?
The very basic thing we have to be careful of is recognizing privacy. It's so easy to sequence. It's so easy to sequence. So just recognizing genetic privacy, that you have a right to your data and your traits, and that they can't all be scooped up and used by others. Two, that if we block access to this technology in the West, where we have a longer experience with it and maybe some more fear around it, that will actually slow us down. We're not going to get the same economic benefits. We're not going to stay ahead of the curve technologically in terms of grants, investment, knowledge.
What do you think is the big factor in figuring out how we deal with bringing these organisms that people are engineering and working with and tweaking into our lives as humans, and making that like a part of our society? Like, what should happen there?
Again, that's a great question. So I've kind of lived through most of this field emerging, and certainly genetically modified foods touched off a firestorm of negative public perception. And that's because it was a new technology, and it was something that was very low level. We all eat, right? And no one really understood what the ramifications of using that technology and putting these new traits into plants that were out in the environment would ultimately do. And I think we've paid a lot of price for that over the last 30 years. I've come from a different side of genetic engineering, where we made medicines that saved lives. And it was never planted in a field. It was always done just in a lab, in a bioreactor. And we never got anyone picketing us saying, do not make this life-saving medicine. So I think it's really, when I distilled all this, I realized what you have to go and do is, one, safeguard the environment. Share your results, safeguard the environment. Two, label what you are making and make it identifiable. Proudly do that. And three, make things that people want.
What do you think people can do to sort of, on their own, get into synthetic biology and start thinking about how to work with these systems? Like, if somebody sees this and wants to be a synthetic biologist when they grow up, which is exactly what happened to me when I was in high school and I started hearing about this stuff, what should they go do? Where should they focus? And what sort of resources do they have?
That's a great question. The very first thing is to pursue scientific studies. Really take biology in school, take physics, take math, take computer programming. So really get the basics in science and engineering. That's the first step. The second step is find a place where you can work. It turns out that a lot of school labs are really well equipped today. So not like in the old days where they just had microscopes and a few scalpels to pull apart a frog. Today they actually have a number of molecular biology tools. And if you just want to do it by yourself, there's also examples of do-it-yourself biologists just starting to organize in little clubhouses and working with absolutely safe organisms and tools. So there's so many ways to get in. As long as you're interested, you'll find a way.